humans, I'm Mr. Khing. Hey, let's come back to the examples of popular exam question and answer for acid-base chapter. So first one, define the term acid. Okay, remember acid is also called proton donor. Okay, and then followed by the definition of alkaline and base. Remember, okay, both alkaline and base, they have the same definition. Okay, just remember they are proton acceptor. Okay, so next, what is meant by the term weak base? Yeah, so weak means they do not accept proton readily. Base means proton acceptor. Okay, so next, how can you show that which base is stronger? With a fair comparison. See, when we see the word fair, which means you have to talk about the constant variables. Okay, so which is you have to make sure that they have the same concentration, and then you measure the pH. Okay, you can measure by using pH meter. Okay, and the stronger base, it has higher pH. Right. Okay, chemical equation. Okay, see, other than all this, you also need to know how to construct a balanced chemical equation. See, like example, you see the reaction between sodium hydroxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, you see sodium hydroxide, it reacts with carbon dioxide to produce sodium carbonate and H2O. Okay, and then next, the reaction between ammonia and sulfuric acid. Remember, ammonia reacts with acid to produce only ammonium salt. Remember this. Okay, ammonium salt is the only one end product. Okay, see like example, ammonia reacts with sulfuric acid to produce ammonium sulfate. That's it. Okay, and then definition of amphor trioxide. Okay, it means it can react with both acid and alkaline. Neutral oxide will not react with both acid and alkaline. Then what are the examples? Remember examples of amphor trioxide. Okay, aluminium oxide and zinc oxide. Okay, you have to remember the example. Okay, same goes to neutral oxide. Examples of neutral oxide: carbon monoxide. Okay, so next one, how do you differentiate between strong and weak acid? Yeah, so we can just compare the pH. So measure the pH with pH meter. Okay, so strong acid, lower pH. Weak acid, higher pH. Okay, then describe a test other than measuring the pH, which can be carried out on both acid solution to confirm the different pH values of both the acid. So other than measuring pH, isn't it? Okay, we can also test with metal. Yeah, remember metal reacts with acid to produce salt and hydrogen gas. So we can just measure the amounts of bubbles produced. Yeah, see, add suitable metal. Okay, see, the most commonly run. Okay, we will use magnesium or zinc. Okay, so it's strong acid reacts faster and therefore produce more bubbles. Okay, for strong acid. Okay, next, see, given aqueous solution of ammonia and sodium hydroxide, both having a concentration of 0.1 mol per dm³. So how can you show that ammonia is the weaker base? Same thing, we can just measure the pH with pH meter. Okay, so we know that sodium hydroxide is a strong acid. So therefore, sodium hydroxide, higher pH. Ammonia, weak acid, therefore, lower pH. Okay, next one, you cannot prepare a neutral solution of magnesium chloride by titration. So describe how you could prepare a neutral solution of magnesium chloride. So see, it can be the reaction between metals with acid. See like example, okay, reaction magnesium with acid, and of course remember you have to make sure that the metals added is in excess. Okay, this is to ensure that all acid, they are fully reacted. Okay, and then we'll filter out all the excess metals. Next one, why hydrochloric acid and ethanoic acid of the same concentration that have different pH? See, from here we know that hydrochloric acid, strong acid. Ether, non acid, weak acid. So first you have to mention about this. Yeah, and then you talk about the definition of strong acid or weak acid. So you see, strong acid, it dissociates completely in water to produce higher concentration of hydrogen ions compared to the weak acid. Okay, next one. So what are the 3 observations when solid copper 2 carbonate reacts with acid? Okay, in the exam, they like to ask about observation. Since solid copper 2 carbonate reacts with acid to produce copper 2 solution. Okay, so observation, so you see what happens to the solid? The solid dissolves. Okay, carbonate compound reacts with acid to produce carbon dioxide gas. Observation, colorless gas bubbles form, so-called effervescent. Why is the salt produced? Copper 2 sulfate solution. Solutions that contains copper 2 ions, blue in color. So therefore, blue solution is formed. Okay, so next, describe how you could show that magnesium oxide is a basic oxide but not an amphoteric oxide. Remember, basic means it cannot get dissolved in alkaline. Amphoteric means it can dissolve in both acid and alkaline. Okay, so therefore we need to test with both acid and alkaline. So you see how you add a name acid, like example HCl. Okay, basic one, so it will dissolve in acid. And then we test with alkaline. If it's basic, it will not dissolve in alkaline. Okay. Then next, how can we show that the compound is amphoteric? So same thing, we have to test with both acid and alkaline. Yeah, and it will dissolve in both acid and alkaline. Okay, we see add acid. Okay, add alkaline. One more thing, okay, in the exam, right? Do not just write add acid and alkaline. You have to give examples of acid and alkaline use. See, like example here, HCl and sodium hydroxide. Okay. Then you see mentioned aluminium oxide. Okay, it will react with both reagent. Okay, and therefore it will dissolve. Okay, to form a solution in both the acid and alkaline. Okay. So next one. Oh my God. Such a long question. Okay, you see the sulfuric acid is added slowly from the burette until the indicator just changes color. So the volumes of acid needed to neutralize the lithium hydroxide is recorded. So describe how you will continue the experiment, okay, to obtain, see keywords, pure dry crystals. So which means asking you, okay, how can you carry out crystallization? Yeah. So you see, pure, which means without indicator. So therefore, we have to repeat the experiment without indicator. Okay, using the same volumes of acid and alkaline. Yeah, and then you obtain the salt solution. Remember, we have to heat the solution until crystallization point. And then we leave it to cool and evaporate. It will slowly form crystal. Then we filter out the crystal. Okay, remember, every time you carry out filtration, always follow by rinsing the crystal with distilled water and then dry it with filter paper. Okay, standard, very easy. Okay, next one. Describe how a pure dry samples of lead iodide could be made from solid potassium iodide and lead nitrate solid. Okay, remember, so this is an example of precipitation reaction. Remember, soluble salt reacts with soluble salt to produce insoluble salt. So you see, you are given with solid potassium iodide and solid lead nitrate. So the first thing to do, we have to dissolve both the solid. Okay, so dissolve in water. Okay, and then we have to mix both the solution together. It will produce the precipitate. We filter out the precipitate, rinse or wash the precipitate with water, and then we dry with filter paper. Okay, standard. Okay, next one. Ionic half equation. Okay, remember, whenever they ask about ionic half equation, okay, it is always the ionic equation of the precipitate. Okay, so it's basically just identify the precipitate and then just write the ionic equation for precipitate. Okay, so you know that the precipitate is lead 2 iodide. So This will be the half equation. Okay. Next one, how do we test for the presence of copper 2 ions? Yeah, we can test by adding in sodium hydroxide solution, and then it forms blue precipitate, okay, so-called the copper 2 hydroxide. Next one, describe the test for nitrate ions. Remember, to test for nitrate, right? Okay, the 3 conditions needed. You have to add aluminium, you need aqueous sodium hydroxide, and also you have to warm or heat the solution. If there's nitrate ions, it will produce ammonia gas. And then the gas produced, it will turn the litmus paper, okay, from red to blue color. Okay, next one, how to carry out flame test. Okay, this one is quite important as well. Okay, so first step, we need hot flame, keywords. Okay, and then we have to dip a wire into concentrated hydrochloric acid. Why? Okay, basically it is to clean the wire. Okay, and then use the wire to introduce the sample to the flame. That's it. So basically this is how to carry out flame test. Alright, yeah, that's it. Alright, thanks. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you again. Bye.